just a quick review on the concepts of geometry. This one in particular, Pythagorean Theorem. If you have a right triangle and you have two of the sides, you can always use what's called the Pythagorean Theorem to find the third side. And this is one of the most common things that people remember from high school math. So if we designate the sides of a right triangle as A, B, and C, we always make the side opposite of the right angle the C. Remember, the sum of the angles in a right triangle is 180 degrees. The largest side is always opposite of the largest angle, and if there is a 90-degree angle in your triangle, that has to be the largest side. So opposite of the largest side is always the largest angle, and vice versa. Then the two other sides, we call those legs. They have to be opposite of an acute angle, depending on what problem you're looking at. One angle will be smaller than the other, or they'll be equal to each other. Okay, we don't always know that. We don't always need that. Doesn't really matter at this point, but there will be two acute angles and two smaller sides we call the legs. Okay. Now usually again you'll be given two of the sides and you need to find the third. Okay. You do want to pay attention to the directions of the problem and whether or not they want you to round your answer or leave it in radical form. So I've got an example of both from a worksheet that I've been dealing with lately. You do want to pay attention before you get too involved in the problem to which side is missing. It's not always the hypotenuse. It's the most common thing that they'll have to start, but as you go on, they'll have other sides missing as well. Okay. So if they have you use your calculator, you want to pay attention to how they round things. So here's an example. The right angle is up at the top here. You're missing the side opposite of that, so that would be the hypotenuse. Okay. And the two legs here, one is 6 centimeters, the other one's 8 centimeters, so we want to use that to find the missing side. Okay, so since they're the two legs, one of them can be A and the other one can be B. It doesn't matter which one's which, so it would be 6 squared plus 8 squared equals x squared. Simplify the left-hand side, so 36 plus 64 equals x squared. Add those together, so 100 equals x squared, and then at this point you would take the square root of both sides. I flipped the equation so the variable could be on the left because we're more used to that. Now technically, when you take the square root of x squared, the other side should be plus or minus the square root of 100 or plus or minus 10, but since we're dealing with sides of a triangle here, side lengths have to be positive, so we only need to worry about the 10 as the answer here. And technically I should put the 10 centimeters. I'll add that real quick before we forget, so we keep our units of measure. Okay, another example here. This one I like because it's missing one of the legs, and it also gives a side as a radical. Okay. Now the other thing they can do is have you leave your answer in what's called simplest radical form. You just want to leave your square root without typing it into the calculator or rounding or anything like that. Okay. So here you've got a side of x, a side of square root of 14, and a side of 4. Okay. Now we have the right angle here, so this 4 as a side length has to be the hypotenuse. It's opposite of the right angle. So in this case, x has to be a leg. Okay, so it doesn't matter how you set up the left-hand side, but you're missing one side, so we'll call that x. So x squared plus the square root of 14 squared equals 4 squared. Now square and square root will cancel each other out, so that term will just become a 14. And then the right-hand side, obviously, 4 squared is 16. Then to get the x squared by itself, you subtract 14 from both sides. We end up with x squared equals 2. And then take the square root of both sides. Again, technically in algebra, it would be plus or minus the square root of 2 on the right. But since we're dealing with side lengths, you only have the positive outcome. Okay? So here, our final answer would be the square root of 2 yards. Okay? Because we don't have the negative answer here, and you want to have your units of measure. Okay, so your problems will be like that for now, as long as all you have to use is the Pythagorean theorem to find one of the 3 missing sides in a right triangle. Thanks for watching.